in the federal capital city, Abuja. And we're coming to you live from Vision FM 92.1, your community friendly radio. I dare to say that on Vision FM, as long as radio broadcasting is concerned in Abuja, we lead while the others follow. And on this show, on Talking Tech, we've always discussed everything technology, from how technology has continuously dictated the pace of human civilization to how it has enthroned nations who have embraced it as world powers. And we have also discussed new and emerging technologies and how these technologies, will shape our societies, how these technologies will shape businesses, and how they will dictate governments across the globe. We've also brought you expert views from professionals, from tech professionals. We brought you expert views from tech bros, tech sis, and tech CEOs. We also brought you exciting indigenous industry updates. On today's episode of Talking Tech, we'll be discussing Nigeria's power sector, the challenges, and what the way forward will be. Don't forget that I'm your host, Stefan is the tech guy, and you can always follow me on Facebook and on Instagram. On Instagram, you can follow me at d_tech_guy, and that's spelled at DEE_TECH_GUY. And on Facebook, it's one word at the tech guy. That's spelled DEETECHGUY. That's on Facebook. Today on Talking Tech, I have a very special guest with me in the studio. So I'll employ you to go nowhere because when we return, I'll be introducing my guests. Welcome back. You're still on Talking Tech with Ifan, the tech guy. Like I said earlier, I have a special guest with me in the studio to discuss the challenges and possible solutions to Nigerians' power challenges. I have with me in the studio Engr Gbenga Tijani, the MD CEO of Oats Global Energy. Welcome to Talking Tech, sir.
Thank you so much, and good morning, listeners.
Thank you very much for joining us. Engr Gbenga Tijani, over the years, has been a very big player in Nigeria's power sector. I wouldn't want to sound his trumpet myself. I would want him to talk about Oat Global, what Oat Global does, and also talk to us about some of the power projects that Oat Global has embarked on over the years.
Okay, so it's a great pleasure to be here this morning to talk about the power industry and the issues of power in Nigeria. Though honestly, I'm a bit reserved when it comes to talking about the challenges of the power industry in Nigeria. But regardless, to introduce myself, I started my journey into the power sector 1998 when I went to France to have some training and work with Electricity de France.
That's a long time. A lot of people almost finishing universities have not been born by then.
Okay, so I came back to Nigeria in 2000, and then eventually I started working with Roxen Engineering in Port Harcourt. I was privileged to be involved in the first IPP project in Nigeria, which is the River State Power Plant. It's a 150 megawatts power plant with frame 5 gas turbines.
Okay.
We had 6 of them there at that station. We finished that power plant. I might say have to say one or two things about the plant, but we finished that power plant and we realized that the distribution facility wasn't available.
Wow.
Why? Because that was still under PACN then. So we had to wait another 1 year before we could commission the plant.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but thereafter, I also got involved with the Aloji power plant, which is 1,011 megawatts. It's actually supposed to be a combined cycle power plant. But the first phase of the Aloji power plant is completed now and is commissioned. I think President Goodluck commissioned Aloji power plant. And then I also initiated 3 power plants in Niger Delta, the Egbema power plant, the Omoku power plant, and the Gbaran power plant. These were
all in River State.
No. Egbema is Imo State.
Okay.
Under the NIPP.
Okay.
Egbema happens to be 338 megawatts.
Okay.
Omoku is in River State. That was a 250 megawatts.
Okay.
And Gbaran is in Bayelsa State, a 225 megawatts.
Okay.
Okay. So all of these power plants, we had GE Frame 9 gas turbines for all these power plants. So I left Roxin in 2009 to start Oats Global Energy.
Okay.
And currently, Oats Global is developing a 746 megawatt combined cycle power plant.
Wow.
in Ogun State.
Okay.
Okay, at Imobi. And then also, as we speak today, I'm also working with Belligetto.
Yes.
Okay, Belligetto Holdings Limited. That's the group that came in to also involve in funding power projects and other infrastructures
in
Nigeria. And so currently, I'm actually handling 2 portfolios currently. Yeah.
Congratulations on that, sir. It's very obvious that I can boldly say that over 30% of the electricity being transmitted in Nigeria today, you've been part of those projects.
That's good.
Yeah.
Correct.
So when we talk to you about the power industry,
Yeah.
we're talking that it means we're talking to an authority. We're talking to somebody who understands the industry. So let's get into our conversation for the day. Now, when you look at, I think in our conversation we'll first discuss generation.
Okay.
Because the power sector is divided into 3. To educate our listeners, the power sector is divided into 3. There's the generation side of it, which is run by private organizations, and then there's transmission, which transmits the generated power across the country, and then there's distribution, who distributes to our houses. Distribution, when you talk about distribution companies, now you're talking about the likes of ADC and KEDCO and all the other companies. Now, first, let's look at the distribution side of it, because I would want us to look at it sector by sector, subsector by subsector. Let's look at generation, transmission, and then distribution.
Okay.
Now, talking about generation, when you look at the generation side of Nigeria's power sector, you will agree with me, sir, that we've struggled to increase generation capacity from 5,000 megawatts to about 13,000 megawatts, and this we've struggled to achieve this in 20 years. And then you also look at the fact that our actual capacity, the actual capacity that we use, we've struggled to increase it from 2,000 megawatts to 5,000 megawatts in 20 years. This is when you look at the amount of money we've spent in the power sector. We're talking about 11 trillion naira, and if we've been able to achieve these abysmal results in 20 years, and then you compare the results that countries like Egypt have gotten, Egypt currently generates 55,000 megawatts, and they were able to add 30,000 megawatts in 5 years. So it means that there's a challenge, there's a serious problem. So what are some of the challenges that we have with generating electricity?
Okay, thank you so much. First, I just want to add to that value chain you mentioned,
Okay.
which is generation,
Transmission,
transmission,
and
and distribution. There's an aspect that many people actually overlook, which is critical to generation, and that has to do with fuel,
Yes,
the energy.
Yes, gas.
So that fuel or the energy could be gas when you talk of fossil fuel
Could be coal.
It could be coal. It could be renewable
Renewables,
as
yes.
well. It could be hydro. All right. So that's water.
Yes.
All right. So that's another aspect. But government is not fully involved. That is solely in the hands of the private of the
The fuel
private.
side of it.
Yes, the private ends of it. So yes, money has been spent, and unfortunately, I am not privy to what actually happened in is it Egypt?
Yes, Egypt.
Egypt
Exactly.
you mentioned.
Yes.
Okay, but what I know in Nigeria is that yes, that entire funds you mentioned
Mm-hmm.
wasn't expended strictly on generation.
Yes.
Okay, I know talking about 20 years, uh, I know that most of those funds were spent on generation, distribution, as well as transmission. But today, the truth is this: uh, the country has evolved, obviously.
Yes.
But going back to history, some of the key challenges that we have has to do with mismanagement from the utility companies.
Okay.
That's number one. Because also, when you don't have the right contractors to execute the project,
Okay.
you do have issues.
Of course.
Um, Also, planning is essential. I mentioned starting with on my own experience, starting with a River State government
Okay,
project,
yes.
which was at Omoko. It was purely River State, and that project, a 150 megawatts, we focused. The contractor was given the responsibility to generate power,
Yes.
and but distribution was given to the
NEPA
PACN
yes.
then as at that time.
Mm-hmm.
So we were involved in generation as well as transmission.
Okay.
We completed the generation. Unfortunately, the transmission was not available as well as distribution. And even when the transmission was ready, the distribution was still not available. So we had to wait additional 1 year in order to commission the power plant. So this is normally what happens. The planning must involve all these elements of the value chain. Okay, you don't look at one segment and you say you just want to do generation. Mm-hmm. So currently, yes, generation has been increased from 5,000 to about 13,000.
13,000, yes.
But unfortunately, the 13,000 is unable to go into the grid. Why? Because we still have issues with transmission. We still have issue with the distribution, which I believe we are going to go into all of that. So these are the key issues why the money spent, so to say, within that sector, we are not reaping the dividends of it. That's basically the issue.
Okay. Okay. So basically, our major challenge is not generation.
I won't say we don't have challenges in generation, but currently it's not generation.
It's not generation.
Currently, yeah, it's not generation.
Because most times when you ask people, they tell you that we're not generating enough.
Yeah.
But they have to be educated that generation, it's not our major problem at this time.
As of today. But ultimately, by the time we're able to drive
the transmission and distribution.
Yes, the other elements of that value chain, then we don't need to sleep now and say because it's not a problem, and so we won't continue.
It's still not enough.
It's just that, and again, we need to understand that it takes time to build generating plants.
Yes.
So currently, if we are working on distribution and transmission, then we must also immediately at the same time be trying to do some work on generation.
Exactly. So when you look at one of the challenges that I know that generation plants face is the fact that they have challenges getting gas.
Okay.
Yes. So when you look at the richness of Nigeria in renewable energy sources like solar, you talk of wind, you talk of tidal and other renewable sources. Then you also now juxtapose this with the fact that out of our functional 28 power plants, 25
Okay.
are gas.
Mhm.
When you compare these two realities, it really does not add up. So what would you think? What would have been the right course of action for us? Because now a lot of our generation power plants are complaining about gas. Do you think we would have focused more on renewable, or you think what we have now is still sustainable?
Um, well, sustainability is a different issue, okay? But when it comes to the energy mix,
Hmm.
uh, you don't sleep on one,
Yes.
all right? So renewable energy is developing, but on that scale that you already have fossil fuels plants, renewable energy is cannot just get to that level yet. But I know that this current government, I'm sorry to say that, I mean, I'm not in government,
Hmm.
so, but I know that this current government is making some effort. At least today, renewable through hydro
Yes.
is contributing about 13%,
Yes.
okay, of the power
Generated.
generated.
Yes.
Now, we've been told that by year 2025, that percentage will increase to 23, okay, and by 2030 we should be having 36%. Now, the only problem I have with those figures is I'm not able to to compare those figures, whether they are absolute, in the sense that is it in relation to what will be happening in 2030 when other generation two would have gone up. Will it still be 36% at that time,
Yes.
or is it 36% in
Relative to what we have
relative
right
to
now.
what we have now?
Mhm.
I don't know that. Okay, but uh, today renewable energy, yes, there's some improvement. The cost of renewable energy is coming down.
Yes.
But this challenge we still have with, for instance, solar is storage. Okay, storage is still an issue.
Yes.
All right. So, but in all of this, the technology is improving, and the cost is coming down. So we know that with time we will get there. Okay, so
Okay.
that's what I can say about renewable. All right. So, uh, also the materials is an issue. The kind of panels, the kind of photovoltaic PV panels that we have in Nigeria, I don't know about their quality. I don't know who is whether we
If
are
they are good enough for this temperature.
monitoring that.
Yes.
Yes, because some of these panels, some of them are meant to operate at about 26 degrees net.
Yes.
26 degrees centigrade. But we know the temperature in Nigeria, and that affects the panel because panels have different characteristics depending on the way they are manufactured. We know there is the monocrystalline panels, silicon panels
Yes.
that are 85% being used now worldwide.
Yes.
But we don't know whether it's monocrystalline panels we have in Nigeria or polycrystalline panels, which does not have the same quality as monocrystalline panel.
Panels, yes.
Or are there even those thin what is it called, film panels? So it's a function. These are all sorts of things we need to consider and look at. All right. But my company, the company I'm also managing to the belly get to, one of the things we are looking at is to develop PV panels in Nigeria.
Okay.
Because we have silica in Nigeria.
Yes.
And we should be able to manufacture, okay, solar panels in Nigeria. And we will get there very shortly.
All right, all right. Because I think when I met you in 2017, one of your biggest challenge is the fact that when you sell renewable energy, when you're out there selling renewable energy,
Yeah.
a lot of people do not understand that these panels are different.
Yeah.
So they get low quotation from people who tell them, I can give you panels for this amount, but they do not understand that those panels do not really work well for Nigeria, especially looking at our temperature and some other climate challenges.
Yes.
So I think over time that education will go out there,
obviously,
and over time we'll be able to get things that work for us. Because when you look at technology as a whole, one of the challenges we're facing, especially even in cars, you find people spending money buying cars that are not built for Nigeria.
Tropicalized. They
Yes,
are
they're
not
not tropicalized. Yes.
tropicalized. Yeah. So that's why you don't just go to China, okay, go to Asian country and just buy panels and import. This is what we have in Nigeria.
Yes.
People are making good money with that. But we are supposed to design these panels for this country.
Yes.
You need to check your conditions and design to fit that condition.
Yes.
That's why you don't even go to Europe and just buy gas turbines and bring to Nigeria. No, you must specify the condition. What is your topography?
Yes.
What is the temperature? What is the pressure at your location? That's what will inform the design of the gas turbine.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, sir. So let's go to transmission. I do not think we would finish this today. So I think we have to get a part 2, sir.
Okay.
So let's go to transmission.
Okay.
In 2022, the Nigerian national grid have collapsed about 8 times. Right. And if you want to count
2022
alone, yes.
Okay.
In fact, I think in the past 3 months we've had the past 3 months it's been stable, but before now we've had a lot of collapse in 2022. And when you now want to count how many times it has collapsed since 1999, we've definitely lost count. So sometimes the complaint is this. We hear TCN saying that the transmission line is overloaded, right? But TCN claims that it's overloaded, and then they also claim that the transmission line has the capacity to wheel 7,500 megawatts. But what is currently wheeled is about less than 5,000 megawatts. And for me, I think if you look at these figures, I don't think overloading is an excuse. Now, as a player in the sector, what challenges do you think our transmission line, our national grid is facing?
Good question. Very good question. It's really unfortunate that a lot of us, in the sector, have listened to when this issue of grid collapse, when they come up, I've listened to the players. You see people in the distribution blaming transmission.
Transmission, yes.
You see transmission blaming generation and disco. You see generation blaming transmission and disco. So, but the truth is this: we will always have grid collapse in Nigeria.
Okay.
You know why? Because we have not yet met our base load.
By base load, you mean?
So by base load, I mean a country like Nigeria is supposed to have nothing less than, all right, maybe about 30 or 40,000 megawatts today.
In generation.
That's your base load.
Yes.
Because you need to understand that every time a generator drops, it affects the frequency of the line.
Okay.
When a generator drops within a power plant, if care is not taken, the whole power plant will drop. And if that happens, once it gets to 10% of the capacity of that line, of the transmission, the whole grid will collapse. So today, we are still building the base load. And that's why we have to talk about huge power plants in this country.
Okay.
For instance, in America, where they have over 200 to 300,000 megawatts as their base load, when you lose 10%, you can't even lose 10%. 10% means you need to lose
over 30,000
megawatts.
Yes.
There's no power plant that's 30,000 megawatts, my brother. Today, we are operating at about our transmission line is about less than 5,000 capacity. When all the loads is generating. So you have maximum about 4,000. When you lose a plant that is 400 megawatts,
that's
just
10%.
400, you've gone to up to 400. Up to 10%.
Yes.
The grid will collapse. So we need to understand, and the truth is this: what is the cause of the collapse? That's where we all need to sit down and address. It's not just to be blaming each other. We all need to address this. And that's why it will continue to happen. Because, for instance, fossil fuel plants that will rely on natural gas,
Yes.
and you have vandalization on gas pipelines, you have issues with gas supply. Once there is a disruption to the gas supply, what happens to the plant?
It's shut down.
It shuts down. And so when the first plant shuts down, second plant shuts down, the third plant shuts down, the next thing, the
The
grid
grid is collapsing.
is collapsing. So these are the various issues. But normally, what we should have as well in our power plants is what we call a spin reserve. We don't have reserves at the power plants. Overseas, they have that. What do I mean by spin reserve? Spin reserve means you have a power plant. In your power plant, you have 6 generating or 6 gas turbines, for instance. You allow one, okay, as spin reserve, meaning it will be running on no load. Okay? It will be running on no load.
Yes.
Such that if another power plant, this is designed by the system operator.
It's all interconnected.
It's designed by the system operator. Yes. So that if one power plant nearby has an issue with their turbine, they will tell you to load your own turbine.
Your reserve.
Your reserve. So that you'll be able to inject power.
Into
so that
the
the idea is that you don't allow the grid to drop power to the extent that it will get to 10%.
Okay.
Once it drops, the grid will collapse. So, but today, the power plant operator says, you have not paid me for even the power I've generated.
So why should I run?
Why should I now keep a turbine that I'm paying debt on? Why should I keep it not running? Who are you going to pay me for that?
That's a challenge.
We have not gotten to that point, my brother.
Wow.
So all these plants we are talking about, solar, all these little power plants, they are called peaking plants. Peaking plants. They are to address peak plants, and if those ones go down or off, they shouldn't affect the transmission.
We're almost overshooting our time. Like I said, this is not something we can discuss on one episode of Talking Tech. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so much. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
And to our listeners, I hope you've been able to learn. You've been educated on some of the challenges. We've not started discussing solutions yet, but I think in our next episode we'll discuss solutions. Thank you very much for joining us on Talking Tech. So till I come your way next week, I still remain your fine the tech guy. Have a wonderful week.
Okay.